friends, let me show you how you can create this fun, colorful card using your Blendabilities and embossing. It's really easy. The base of this card is the Tangelo twist. This piece of cardstock is cut at 5 1/4 by 4, and this is the Lost Lagoon blue color, and I've put it through the Big Shot using our chevron embossing folder, so I get that really cool pattern. This is a piece of our Blackberry Bliss, and it has been cut at 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. This is a piece of In the Park Designer Series paper, and I've cut this to measure 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. And then I just have some bits and pieces for scraps to make the flowers. So I'm using Blackberry Bliss instead of basic black, just because I already have the sample here to show you, and I want to show you if you don't have the black, as long as you have a dark piece of cardstock, this technique will still work, so I can show you the difference as we go along. Once again, I'm using one of my favorite new stamp sets, and it's called Bravo, and it has a great assortment of expressions. We're going to use the Congrats. Now this is a photopolymer stamp set, and I've already gone ahead and put it onto my block. And before I ink that up, I'm going to take my embossing buddy and just rub it all over my piece of Blackberry Bliss cardstock. That way I don't have embossing powder sticking where I don't want it to. And I'm going to ink this up using my Versamark ink. Ink it up really, really well. Stamp it on my paper. I hope you can see that. Next, I'm going to sprinkle on my white embossing powder. I now have my white embossing powder on my image. I'm going to go set that with the heat tool. This is all embossed now, so we have a nice shiny sort of plastic coating on it with that embossing powder. And I'm going to use the Blendability Markers. Now these are new from Stampin' Up, and they're pretty awesome. And the assortment that I'm going to be using is the Daffodil Delight, the Rich Razzleberry assortment. This is the Coastal Cabana assortment, the Old Olive, and the Pumpkin Pie assortment. So we have lots of fun markers to play with. I'm going to start off using the Rich Razzleberry assortment, and I'm going to start with my dark color and work up to my lightest color. So I'm just coloring in on the bottom half. Now I'm going with my middle shade, the second darkest. And last I'm going to go in with my light shade. The trick, by the way, when you put these pens back into their caps is there's a little circle in there, you see that? And you want to make sure that this lines up perfectly, otherwise you can ruin your tip. So what I normally do is I put them on the table and then just slide it in, because then I know it's going to go in perfectly. That's what I normally do. And we have the fine tip as well at the other end of the marker. Alright, let's go in with our yellows. Same thing, start with my darkest and work my way up to the lightest. This is only about the third time I've used the Blendability markers, and so far I must say I'm absolutely loving them. They are so much fun to play with. Now the latest green. I was just thinking this is great for a congrats card, but maybe if there's not a congrats involved, you can always cut it and just have rats. Sorry, just an abstract thought there. Getting more mileage out of our cards. Alright, let's go back to our Rich Razzleberry assortment. you can see, it's all colored in. And if you want to, you can take your color lifter and you can just blend them in a little bit more if you like. Just kind of takes out some of the streak marks you might get from the markers. I'm positioning that in the center of my yellow Designer Series paper. I'm just going to ink this up using my black StazOn. You could use the new Memento ink pad too if that's what you have. And I'm just going to tuck that right about there because I'm going to add a flower. I'm going to use the Petite Petal stamp set with its coordinating Petite Petal punch. And I'm just going to stamp right on this piece of Designer Series paper. Now, because I am going to color this with my Blendabilities, I'm going to use that Memento ink pad. I'm going to quickly color these in. I'm going to start with my lighter color for these ones. And they actually look very pretty just with the one color. But since I've got the other ones, why not use them as well? These markers have a real different feel to them when you're using them. They literally just, the ink just flows onto the paper. You barely have to even touch the paper and it just flows right on and blends right in. It's so fun to use. If you want to lift off some of that ink, you can just blend it right in and you'll just see it just lightens it right up. And I just found this a little bit too dark, so that's why I'm using the color lifter. Now I'm just punching them out. You need to be aware as well that the markers will come through on the back side of your paper, so if you were just going to use a piece of Whisper White for your card base, you might want to put a little something behind it because the marker will show through. Alright, let's add some Stampin Dimensionals. I'm just going to cut these up a bit because I only need to use a tiny bit for these flowers. And I'm just bending up the flowers, the petals, just to get a bit of a 3D look. It's amazing what a difference that will make. And last but not least, we are just going to add a pearl in the center of each flower. And there you have it. Isn't that pretty? I really, really like it. The other thing that I did on the first card that's a little bit different is I added some glitter. So I took my two-way glue pen and I just traced on top after I used my markers and I sprinkled on some dazzling diamonds. So I got a bit of a extra bling. And then of course I used the different color cardstock here. And you'll notice this card's cut just a little bit smaller, just when I was playing around with the technique, and this is a full-size card. So I hope you give that a whirl. It's a lot of fun. I know you're going to love it, and it's just another great way to use those new Blendability markers. Thanks for watching and happy stamping!